Do you ever find yourself thinking like, hey, for the hour and a half that I'm gonna spend today on my makeup, how about I not use products that I love and are my holy grails? How about I do a full face of makeup using products that I forgot I even had? Yeah, probably not because like, same. But that is exactly what we're doing today. We're doing a full face of makeup that I forgot I had. These products are sitting in the back of my makeup drawers. Some of them are expired, so not a good thing. But we're gonna have fun today. And I'm gonna show you exactly how I create this beautiful, well, somewhat beautiful. It's like a 5 out of 10, okay? We had a lot to deal with, okay? Just keep watching and you'll find out for yourself. Okay, just to clarify a little bit, the products I'm using today, I'm not using them because I don't like them. I'm just using them because I just don't reach for them too often. They skip my mind. Like, they're not the products where I'm like, I have to use that right now. Just so y'all know. So as always, I start with my brows. We're gonna use the One Size Brow Kiki brow pencil. This is in the shade medium brown. Now pardon me while I look down because I like to use this mirror down there. But with this brow product particularly, I do remember enjoying it when it came out. I was actually pleasantly surprised because prior to using this brow pencil, the products from One Size Beauty that I had tried, I wasn't like the biggest fan of, and I even have a video talking about those products kind of being overhyped in my opinion. Nowadays, I'm really loving the brand and I'm loving the majority of the products that they're coming out with. I really feel like they've stepped it up quite a lot. But this brow pencil is actually pretty creamy and it blends very, very nicely. Why I don't grab for it too often, I really don't know, honestly. I feel like we all have those holy grail products, and for me, my ABH Brow Wiz is one of my holy grail products. It's just one of those products where, I don't know, it's just right there, easily accessible, and I just grab it and go. Okay, so as I was filling my brows in, I quickly reminded myself of two things. One, the product itself is pretty dark. It's a bit darker than the normal brow products I use. And two, the formula of the product itself, like the actual product, is so soft that barely touching your eyebrows, it just like melts away. So you can go through this very, very quickly. All right, let's carve these bad boys because they look very, very different because this one's been having its own little moment the last couple weeks where it just wants to look completely different than the other brow, like naturally. So we're gonna carve it out with a little bit of the P. Louise eyeshadow base. I have not used this in like 2 years. I don't know why, but it's literally been like 2 years and I loved that base. I'm just gonna take a little flat Morphe brush and just slightly carve these out. Also, this base is a lot lighter than what I've really been using a lot of lately. I've been using a shade that's a lot more skin tone, whereas this is very, very, very bright. I know that originally the reason I was using one that was this bright was because I was doing a lot of super, super colorful looks and I really wanted them to pop. Normally I don't carve around my entire brow because it's, you know, not 2016 anymore, but since these ones are just, the shapes are just so weird, I'm just gonna try and restructure them a little bit. Then I just take a damp beauty sponge and start stamping that out to soften it up. That way it doesn't come through when we apply our foundation. Okay, to be honest, there's just no way that I can make my brows look nice today. This one, like I said, is having such a bad couple weeks. It's just, I over plucked them and over like razored them off and now they're just so messed up and I just had to let them grow in and re-wax them and call it a day. So let's just move on before I have a meltdown. For our foundation, we are using one of my absolute favorites of all time, the NYX Born to Glow Radiant Foundation. This is discontinued, like 99% of the shades are, and I couldn't tell you if this was gonna be a shade match or not. Maybe. It's been so long, but this was my holy grail before the Milani 2-in-1 became my holy grail. Love, love, love this. This is certainly expired like 2 years ago. It's just been in my drawer ever since. I don't know, let's just see. It's gonna be a little dark. I stay out of the sun completely now. Back in the day, I used to tan, and this was like my light, light, light shade back in my like tanning days, so that tells you how tan I used to be, but we can make this work, okay? What I love about this foundation specifically is that it's very, very glowy. It really does stay true to its name, which is a radiant foundation. It looks so good. This is especially great for those of you who have normal to dry skin. If you're oily, you can get away with this one specifically, but I wouldn't say it's like the one I would recommend as like your absolute go-to. I do love how affordable this foundation is. I mean, virtually everything from NYX Cosmetics is super affordable, so I love that. Now, even though I'm starting to look like Donald J. Trump right now,
what the fuck?
we can fix this with our bronzer and concealer. No worries, it's part of being a makeup artist. You just have to learn how to fix things on the fly. I mean, don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely stunning on my skin in person. It's glowy, it's beautiful. The coverage is like a good medium. It's certainly a buildable foundation, but like as I was taking it down my neck, I was like, ooh, we a little orange. We got a lot going on, okay? We have a lot going on, just trust the process. But I am actually just gonna throw this away right now because obviously it's years and years overdue of being thrown away. Now for concealer, we're gonna be going in with the Milani Conceal and Perfect Concealer. Now I love Milani products, you all know this if you've seen any of my videos, but this is just not a concealer that I typically gravitate towards. Again, it's just because it's not one of my like go-to products. Right now I'm using a lot of concealer from Cody Cosmetics, that's one of my favorites. And I have a very like obsessive mentality and behavior towards a lot of things, and with makeup specifically, when I love something, I just only want to use it. Now I'm going to spray myself with a little bit of the Urban Decay All Nighter setting spray. Again, this is not a setting spray that I usually gravitate towards. It's not one of my favorites. I know it's a staple in a lot of people's routines. It's just certainly not in mine. I do have like a really large size one, so it's like I just got to use it because I don't want to be wasteful. But like, oh, also it smells terrible. Now the goal with this concealer being a lot brighter is to hopefully tone down a lot of the orange and the darkness that should not be going on right now because the shade's obviously very, very off. But really that's the beauty of makeup, is you can do a lot of like course correction in real time with your products. If you have a foundation that's too dark, use a lot more of your concealer to brighten it up. If you have a foundation that's too light, you can bring a lot of that darkness and depth back to your skin that you may need with your bronzer and contour. So just because something doesn't match perfectly doesn't mean it's like the end of the world. That's definitely something that I wish would change in the beauty community. I see people doing foundation reviews all of the time, and in the comments people will be like, that's not your shade, it doesn't match. And I'm like, Becky Sue, I want to see you go to the store and pick out your absolute perfect melt into your skin shade. Absolutely undetectable, the most flawless perfect match.
It's been some girl-on-girl crime here.
Then get back to all of us creators or makeup artists and let us know. You just have to remember that when you're picking foundation shades, a lot of people buy them online, which is like a recipe for disaster in of itself, but also the lighting in stores is going to be much different than the lighting outside, sunlight, or the lighting in your room or your studio, your beauty room, whatever it may be. And that's really what makes a big difference when you're picking a foundation. You could go in store, pick out a foundation, and the lights literally make it look like it's an absolute perfect match, but you walk outside and you're like 4 shades off. Then you get in your beauty room and I'm in front of studio lights and it really makes it look different. So it really is quite a hassle sometimes. But again, there are more important things going on in the world than if somebody's foundation shade is 110% match, you know? Priorities. So I'm gonna take my concealer down a bit further than I normally would. Again, I really wanna kind of distract from the fact that my foundation is really, really not a good shade. And as this foundation dries down, it's gonna help to not be as noticeably orange and, you know, 4 shades too dark, so don't worry about that. I'm also gonna take whatever residual product is on my sponge, which is that concealer, and just stamp it all over my neck, just to kind of lighten up whatever foundation's on my neck, because obviously it's also incorrect. Okay, I just brought so much brightness back to my face. I mean, does it really look like the shade is that off? Not really. And like in person as it's drying down, I really can't see a lot of the orange tones coming through, the warm tones coming through, just because I have added so much brightness with this concealer. We're on our way to like looking a little bit better. Really, that's the fun of videos like this, is it doesn't have to be serious. Makeup can just be fun. Not everyone has to, you know, always use their holy grail amazing products so you can have this most perfect, amazing look ever. Sometimes it's fun to sit here and use products that you don't often use for one reason or another and try a whole entire new combination. Like I guarantee you right now, all of the products I'm using today, I've never used all together in one actual makeup routine ever. So it's like the end result's gonna be surprising to me because I've never paired all of these products together. I know and you know what works best for you and looks best for you, which is why we always grab those products. So that's what's fun about this. We're doing something completely different. Alrighty, let's set that concealer with a little bit of the Anastasia Beverly Hills Translucent Setting Powder. Again, if you are a day one Cody J viewer, this was my holy grail for the longest time. I'm also gonna use a puff today instead of my traditional beauty sponge, just really trying to shake things up a little bit. I'm gonna stamp off some of the excess onto the back of my hand, and then I'm just gonna start setting my under eyes first. Now I do like to bake, so I'm just going to use a little bit of it like this and let it sit there for just a minute. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this powder whatsoever. Again, the point of today's video is not to be about products that I don't like, it's just products that I stopped using or don't grab. I'm just gonna put a little bit here on my smile lines. This foundation, being that it's expired, is certainly not going to survive on my skin like it normally would, and that's okay. Okay, we're looking so much better already. If you were to, for some reason, start this video at this very moment, you would not know that my foundation shade was like 3 shades off just by watching, you know? That means we're on the right track. Alrighty, let's go into some bronzer. We're using the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer. This is in the shade 01 Sunlight. Again, loved this back in the day. Just don't use it anymore. I gravitate towards my Fenty Beauty bronzer more than anything. I forgot that it smelled like kind of like coconut, so that was a nice little surprise. I'm just gonna stamp this into place like I normally do. Now I do remember this being more of a subtle bronzer. It's not as pigmented and noticeable as my Fenty Beauty. It's certainly more on the neutral side of things. I mean, obviously bronzers are meant to be warm toned, but you can find shades that are certainly more so towards like the neutral, almost cool tone side, and this is one of those. This is giving more bronzer than anything. It's definitely not gonna give me that super sun-kissed vibe that I like, but you can see obviously like right here, it definitely gives you a little bit of warmth. So at the end of the day, it works out, which is why I loved it and used it for so long. Okay, bronzer's done. It doesn't look too bad. I'm not mad about it. I also touched up my nose a little bit. I just literally can't get over how disgusting that brow is. It's just like getting worse as this video goes on. Alrighty, let's move on to blush. We're gonna go with the One Size Beauty Cheek Clapper Blush Trio. This is in the shade Attention Seeker. So I'm just gonna use the powder blush right here in the middle because y'all know I don't love a really bold blush moment. And this is more on the pigmented side, but I know this shade is doable for me and my fair skin.
I'm so pale.
Like that to me is more than enough. Like I don't want it to be super noticeable. Like in person I'm like, it's a bit pink, but we'll cover it up a little bit. And as products dry down and as they move around a little bit and kind of blend in with the rest of your makeup, especially once you add your setting spray or your finishing spray, certain products, especially blush, are not as noticeable. And this is a powder, so if I were to use a cream first and then a powder on top of it, it would be very, very noticeable and it would certainly not really budge throughout the day. I'm also gonna take my bronzer brush that we were just using a second ago and stamp over that just to blend it together and try and tone down a little bit of that blush. I almost forgot what it was called. All right, so now I'm gonna set my face with the Urban Decay All Nighter. Again, we talked about this earlier. Don't really love it, don't love the smell. Definitely not one that I gravitate towards ever. Now while it's still damp on my face, we're gonna go into some highlighter. This is from Makeup Geek. I do not remember what shade it is. I actually wrote down the names in Sharpie on the back of a couple of these highlighters, but it was years ago. We're talking like 2019-ish, maybe 2020 at the latest. And the shade names have disappeared off the back of these from me like touching them and whatnot. Can I see it at all?
No.
But these highlighters are really, really pretty. They're one of my first Makeup Geek products that I owned and used. I just remember them being really pretty, kind of subtle, not over the top. Now my Blend Bunny Noctilucent highlighters, on the other hand, those ones are like blinding. Okay, real quick, I'm gonna gather my thoughts on what eyeshadow I wanna do, and I'm gonna do one eye, and then I'll be right back. So this is the quick and easy little look I did. I didn't wanna do anything intricate or super, super exciting because this full face is just... I also want to point out that I'm clearly starting to have a little bit of a reaction to some of the products that I'm using because, again, they're old at the end of the day and most of these should be thrown away, including this eyeshadow base. You can't really tell, but on this eye, on the inner corner, I was starting to get little hives, so that's not cute. So for eyeshadow, we're using the CXC Beauty Absolutely Essentials palette. We're going to start off by taking a fluffy brush and dipping into this medium brown at the top. And I'm just going to buff this into my crease and take it out a little bit just to start creating the general shape that I want. Now, one thing about CXC Beauty is their formulas are always spot on. Their eyeshadows especially are very, very good. They're clearly pigmented. They blend out really nicely. They're just super, super easy to work with, and I appreciate that, especially with them being an indie brand. You all know I'm obsessed with indie brands. I try my best to show them as much support as possible, but CXC Beauty has always been on a level of its own. They are just great. Once I apply that brown, I'm just gonna take a clean, fluffy brush, and then I just start diffusing the edges a little bit, just so they are softened up a smidge. All right, see, it's much softer, much better. Now I'm gonna take a brush that's slightly more dense and we're gonna dip into this terracotta kind of burgundy brown at the bottom. With this, we're just gonna start stamping on our outer corner and then taking it in through our crease a lot lower than that first brown shade. Right now, my goal is to make sure that the shadow is actually showing up before we actually blend it out. So if it looks like a hot mess for a minute, that's fine. We all look like a hot mess for a minute when we wake up, am I right? All right, so just now take whatever residual product is on that brush and just start going around in small circular motions just to start blending that out and blending it into that first light brown that we laid down. See how everything is nice and smooth? That's what we want. I'm then gonna take a little bit of that first light brown that we used in the very beginning and just go over the top especially, but also right through the middle to make sure that it's blended as much as it can be. Then again, go in with a clean, fluffy brush and just kind of go all over the entire top of the shadow. Go up into your eyebrow, take it out a little bit. We just wanna make sure that everything's nice and smooth and blend it out. Then I'm gonna take it down here at a diagonal and kind of go upwards because that's the general shape that I wanna take it. Cute enough. Next, I'm just gonna take a flat packing brush and I'm gonna dip into this beautiful gold shimmer right here. It actually is a little bit of kind of like a champagne rose gold almost. Like the way it shows up on my lid in person has a little bit of like a rose reflect to it, but it's beautiful. You see a little bit, maybe you can't, but I can. But definitely tilt your head back when doing this because these ones specifically have a little bit more fallout than I would prefer. Not the end of the world, but just make sure you tilt your head back so you can try to keep as much of it off of your face as you can. Now, I always take my shimmers above my actual crease because I do have very hooded eyes, and I want to be able to see a little bit of it when I'm looking straight ahead. Now we're going to go in one last time with that brick red right here, and we're going to stamp over the outer corner of this. I want to make sure that I'm removing any harsh line from where that shimmer was just applied, and just to bring a little bit more depth on this outer corner. Just stamp around sporadically like so. Doesn't have to be perfect, and then very softly bring it into the crease just a little bit. I'm gonna take this fluffy brush and wipe away as much of that fallout as I can. Again, not a big deal if you're a little bit sparkly on the face, but I just don't want a ton of it, you know? Then lastly, I'm gonna take my Makeup Shack T14 brush and we're gonna dip into that first light brown. And for this, I'm just gonna kind of look up a little bit and tilt my head down, and we're gonna close our eye and really make sure it's blended up into that top eyeshadow. Now, the more you blend underneath your eye, the softer it's gonna be. It's gonna be a lot more diffuse. So if you want it to be a bit more harsh, don't blend as much. If you want it to be really, really soft and kind of blown out, just keep blending. And that is good enough for me. So for eyeliner today, we're gonna go back to our trusty LA Girl Shockwave Neon Eyeliner. This is in the shade Blackout, which just is a pure jet black. Now for this, I do need to like look down into my mirror, so sorry. And we're just gonna run this along our lower waterline. This is stabbing me because it needs to be sharpened, but I don't have a sharpener. Alrighty, it's mascara time. So normally I love to use my Blend Bunny Cosmetics Omni Lash Mascara or my Milani Highly Rated Mascara, but today we're using the Benefit Cosmetics They're Real Magnet Mascara. Now I did like this in the past. Again, I get into these periods of time where I just don't grab things, and this is one of them. But I do remember it being a good mascara, great for lengthening. We love some volume. If you're someone that does not wear lashes, you would really love this mascara, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, if you're a false lash wearer, the mascara you use really does not matter that much. And to be honest, I don't know if I've ever seen anyone say that. I'm sure someone has at some point, but usually people act like you have to have the best mascara in the world and like 4 coats of it just to throw on some lashes to cover it up. And personally, I've always thought that was a little bizarre. Such a gorgeous mascara. Alrighty, time for some lashes. So I don't know what the style of this is, but these are from ColourPop. I know. Normally I wear the Makeup Geek Graceful lashes. I've worn those for so many years, but we're gonna use these today. Lashes are on. Lashes always make the biggest difference when it comes to eyeshadow. Even with the most simplest of looks like we did today, it just still elevates it to like a new level. That's what elevate means. Anyway, time for lips. We're gonna go in with a Milani Stay Put Liquid Lipstick. This is in the shade 220 Go Off. Literally, I just randomly grabbed one sitting in my drawer. So I think this is kind of like a purplish color. So I think this would look good. This is giving like October, like fall vibes, and I'm here for that. My mirror doesn't work because the battery's dead, so that sucks, but whatever. Oh yeah, we love that here. You already know, I love burgundies, I love plums, but this is not one I grabbed just because I forget it's there. But I love the color. So this lippy kind of dries weird. Like you see how it looks all different everywhere? This, I forgot, dries down very strange. Like it's not as opaque as you'd like it to be. And then the edges are like really dark and the inside's not as much, but when it all actually dries down, it's not as noticeable, but it's a little concerning at first. That's basically as good as we're gonna get this lip shade today. It's definitely one of those shades that's very all over the place and you need like 4 coats of it and make sure it's perfect or else it looks splotchy and blotchy and no. But the color is gorgeous at the end of the day. So now that we have our lippy on, where did it go? It ran away from me. We're gonna spray our face one last time with the Urban Decay All Nighter. And with that, we have completed a full face of makeup using products that honestly I forgot I even had. This was definitely a roller coaster from start to finish because again, I've never paired all of these exact products together. I've obviously used all these products individually, but I've never had this exact combination of all these products. We started off with a foundation that was far too dark for my skin tone and orange at the end of the day, and we fixed it. It looks like I actually went outside and experienced the world, and I didn't. We fixed that by adding a lot of concealer that was a lot brighter than I normally would use, and it worked itself out. It's not too bad. But I had a lot of fun in this video, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Having fun using makeup is all that matters. So I would love to challenge you to try to do a full face of makeup using products that are not your go-to, not your holy grail, maybe the ones that are just in the back of your makeup vanity drawers or sitting off to the side. Try new combinations out, just have fun with it. But that's all I have for you in today's video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up down below. Don't forget to click that big red subscribe button so you can join my YouTube family, and I will see you guys in the next one.